All right, good morning. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint. I'm your host, Jason Smith. Today, we are in Greensboro. We're in front of the Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering for North Carolina A&T and UNCG.
Yeah.
And we're here with Denise Roth, running for City Council at large, City of Greensboro. I'm going to read a little bit about your bio so everybody
Sure.
knows who I'm talking to. Quite
Okay.
impressive.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll get into asking some questions about the City of Greensboro.
Okay, that sounds
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
So Denise is a former city manager for Greensboro, and she helps shape the city to what we know today. She's worked across the aisle and partnered with every sector, and has led through growth and hard moments with City of Greensboro. Her experience reaches far beyond City Hall. Denise was an integral part of establishing North Carolina A&T and UNCG Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering, which is where we are today. She's also served across the country at the highest levels, including the federal government. She was administrator of the United States General Service Administration, reporting directly to President Obama. Denise received her bachelor's degree in government and politics at George Mason University, and is a graduate of Public Executive Leadership Academy at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Yes.
Is there anything else? Good gracious.
I'm
sure there's lots more. So first thing we're going to talk about is public safety. As we talk to different people, we kind of ask some of these very similar questions. What's your stance on public safety, and what things does the city need to do to ensure the safety of all of our citizens, especially in light of all the things going on around the world? I mean, just craziness. What do we need to do?
Yeah, I think one of the things that our police department does well, and an important part of public safety, is trust between community and police, especially for when things get tense and difficult, which we will have those times. We've had them in the past, but how we're able to work through them is a key part. I also think that public safety is a part of how people feel comfortable going to their police, and ensuring that that they know who they are. And our police do a really good job at being in the community. There's a lot of praise right now for Chief Thompson, and who's also just very transparent as well, and that's going to help us a great deal. People take care of their communities when they feel invested in a part of it, and so to the extent that we can support community policing, I think is very important. And on the juvenile side, I think having programs, training programs, recreation programs are all part of ensuring that the energy of our youth is directed in the right way as well. So I think of public safety on sort of from those two spectrums of what are we doing in the early days to put our youth on the right path, and as we are facing challenges, how well we are orchestrated to manage those.
Yeah, we got to keep the kids busy.
Yeah.
And we got to mold them.
Yes.
And we got to keep them and doing positive things.
Yes.
So we'll get.
Yes.
Planning and growth. The infrastructure for the city. We have an amazing city, and we're very blessed to have the Tanger Center, the Coliseum, First Horizon Coliseum. I'm sorry, it's Greensboro Coliseum to make.
I know, I'm with you.
It's so hard for me to say that. And just many other facilities and things. What do you see moving forward to keep our positive growth pattern and keeping events and things coming to the city, and what kind of things do we need to do for infrastructure to keep those facilities and others moving in the right direction?
Yeah, and I was proud to be a part of, at some level, of either continuing the foundation for development or growth for all of those that you mentioned in my role as city manager. And I think the reason we invest in those areas is because of our value of the quality of life that we have here in Greensboro. There is something that people are attracted to about our city, and we saw the remnants of it with the Folk Festival this weekend.
Yes.
So to the extent that we are thinking about the cultural assets of our community as being as much of an attraction as our jobs, I think that will be in the right direction. When we also think about the International Civil Rights Center and Museum, we think about the Cultural Arts Center and with the future there. I think all of these aspects, as we look to attract talent, as we look to retain talent and young families, our investment in those areas continue to be a key part of how we grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, from an economic development perspective, I'm going to use the airport as an example. When they go after Jet Zero, gosh, Boom, and others, Toyota.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the airport, but you know, when they come to tour Greensboro, they're looking for these things because they've got to have employees that want to be here.
Right.
And so,
Right.
all these things that we think that it's just here.
Yeah.
They're actually what they're looking for to make sure that when they bring people here or find people here, that we have these things in place. And how important is that for Greensboro?
It's paramount, and you're right, Jason. You know, something that people do, and I'm sure you and your family have done it. When you go to a new town, you go downtown. You see what's happening, and you want to know what restaurants are there. It's really exciting to see the news and record site under local control currently.
Yes.
I think the planning that we are going to see with that 10 acres, and coupled with the planning for the bus depot, is going to be an important part. But you also think about the Science Center, right? It's like the #1 attraction in North Carolina for multiple years running. All of those aspects, I've heard of executives talking about. They bring prospective employees or partners to downtown or to other places to visit, certainly the O. Henry Hotel. And they're looking at those visitors are thinking of themselves here. What does it feel like to have my family here? What does it feel like to live here? We certainly will hear over the next few weeks about some planning for downtown. I think that will be significant because there is some transformation that our downtown needs to face. But that is all a key part of when we are talking to those employers like the Honda Jets and Boom, et cetera. They're also bringing employees here that are maybe currently located in other places, right? And so they're also needing to make the case for Greensboro is the right place for us to be for multiple reasons, and those attributes should not be underestimated.
Right.
Yeah.
So just you brought something that just triggered. You said something triggered me. What? We were just downtown Greensboro earlier this morning, and what do you see Greensboro doing for the east side of Greensboro, kind of development, redevelopment, future development? What do you see happening with that? And and speaking to homelessness and people, shelters or whatnot. What do we see happening to help folks?
I was reminded this weekend that we have had several plans for East Greensboro in particular, East Greensboro Initiative, the growth plan, et cetera. What we haven't done as successfully is put that plan together in terms of an execution. And that is going to be really essential. You mentioned, I think you're referencing the IRC and homelessness challenge in our downtown. Having a very clear plan, I've said this many times before, I think we need to just sort of pause and have a 90-day sprint in which we decide as a community, what is it for the investments that we're making in our homeless population, what's going to make us so more successful?
Yeah.
And how do we actually get on that path? What is that playbook? And how do we execute? And the same will be true for East Greensboro overall. To the extent that we can pull the economic investment that occurs downtown into East Greensboro and sort of partner up with this other part of our community that's been underinvested will really open up a great deal for us. It opens up population of future workers, it opens up entrepreneurs, it opens up land. Just a lot more that we could be doing that we are going to be able to benefit from by thinking more strategically about the role that East Greensboro played broadly in the growth of Greensboro.
And we're sitting here today at a facility, outside this nano science and engineering facility, but there are other buildings here. Things are happening here.
Yeah.
And then across the road, if you haven't been here, there's a fabulous park and all kinds of stuff going on across the street.
Yeah.
And, so I think there's a lot of positive going on. But from the housing perspective, I just, you and I share this, but we need to address the housing, and, whether it be affordable or other, but, there's which leads us into our next topic.
Yeah.
What is, on the housing side, as a city council member, what are things that you want the city to see doing to improve housing, add to housing? Obviously, there's a shortage. We've got to figure out ways to work more efficiently with developers and builders getting permits and getting things in and out in a little more timely manner if we're going to hit housing numbers that the city wants to hit.
Yeah, and I will say this overarchingly is that one of the things that was pointed out in a session this morning was that the upside is we have time to respond, right, or to get ready and get positioned for the growth that is coming, but we have to take those steps. Overall, I think that a multi-type of housing, multi-family housing, duplexes, ADUs are all need to be a part of our strategy. I also think it's important for us to think in terms of density and how people live. We want young families to be able to see themselves starting in starter homes and going further. We want college students, to have spaces that are places for them to grow as they come out of school as well. And we have a lot of work to do on that front. Fortunately, we do know what the roadmap looks like. Well, at least we know where our needs are. And our needs, unfortunately, are growing every day. So we have to tackle that.
They're not making more land.
Right.
And costs are continually going up.
Yes.
And density is just going to be the name of the game.
And we have to have housing at every price point, because we're going to be attracting employees from every price point. And so we need to be able to meet them where they are and as they grow. You pointed to where we're sitting right now, and this was really thought of is thought of as the Gate City corridor. And when I was city manager, we thought critically about putting the growth of Barber Park, as well as the Gateway Gardens, and as well as I was at the chamber when we worked on the funding for the joint school, and that's not by accident. It was strategically seeing that the growth and opportunity for our community really pulls this way. Thinking about the housing that's around this footprint and who lives there today, how our elderly, because some of it is elderly population, can age in place to be able to live in these same communities, but maybe in homes that's more adaptable to their changing circumstance, while inviting in other families and researchers. That's really what I see and what I really want to work towards as a member of city council.
That's right.
Yeah.
You've been the city manager.
I've been the city manager. I got to move on. Yes.
So, which takes me, you have a unique perspective, being that you've sat in the chair behind the desk as city manager.
Yeah.
You know how the city staff specifically works and operates. Clearly, every city and city staff has challenges. What, now that you've been there, and you're headed to city council here, and what are some things you want to see change or improved upon inside the city, specifically as it relates to housing? Like permitting or pushing things through, getting them in and out. We were talking earlier today with somebody, and one of the comments or things that I brought up is if I go to buy a piece of land, and by the time I go through the zoning and the purchase and getting it through and getting it, it's about a 2-year process. It seems like now. Yeah. I'm sure it could be less, could be more, but what are some ways that we can act or processes that we can implement that can make things more seamless and quicker?
Yeah, well, something I'll say as an aside, I think it's across that spectrum of permitting and development overall that we need to think, because some people will tell you that our permitting is actually faster than Charlotte and Raleigh these days, which I think is actually not a great thing, but it just says something about the whole process overall. But in the past, I've seen really successful approaches that have a one-stop shop concept to permitting, and being able to have everyone around the table looking at your plans at the same time and commenting, whether it's fire or if it's the occupancy, all of those people just being able to comment at the same time, so that when this one tells you to change one thing, in that one it impacts this one, that all of that happens together.
So the challenges I hear, a lot of times, and you bring up a good point, is that this department may have it and they may send back their stuff, and then it's got to, in my mind, it may not be, I'm just thinking very broad brush, but why can't we just get it to all the departments and get all the feedback at the same time instead of just one at a time? For a time.
Yeah,
time is money to developers.
Absolutely. In the late 90s, I was running a permitting office in DC, and it was public space permitting. And at that time, we had one-stop shop, and we could get all of the CAD plans at the same time and approve them electronically. I don't know that that is the same process that is being used here, but concepts like that certainly have been employed and deployed over the years that have been successful. But what I will tell you overarchingly is that getting employees to understand that the intention and the expectation for council is to get to yes, and to look for solutions that is going to ensure that we are developing quickly within all of the confines that we set out for priorities for ourselves, but that the first thing that we want to do is to build and grow. I think can also sort of change that, because some of it is you have your permit, but you can't get your CO, right? And like, or yeah, and those are really, it can be a
Everything
long
in
tail
between is a
between
process.
those, and
Exactly.
cost and time, as you pointed out. Yeah.
So if you're elected city council at large, what is one item? I mean, I'm sure there's many, but what is one item that you really want to focus on or see changed or improved upon? Or is there? I mean, there's probably many.
There's
but
many, yeah.
If you had to pick one,
Yeah.
what would that be?
I think it's our innovation to solution. It is being creative on how we're solving for X. I want to see staff that is scouring the planet to say, here's the best way Greensboro can do this and how we can do it the fastest and how we can stand out as someone who has done something unique. There is a lot of opportunity that's on the table here, and it's only with a broader thinking that we're going to benefit across the community. Yeah. It's not with that's been done or we've tried that before. All of that thinking is thinking that can hold us back.
And I'll probably touch on a touchy subject for some people, but I'll say it anyway. When we get into politics, we turned into a world where you're either this or you're that, and you agree on this or you don't agree, and nobody can meet in the middle and work towards compromise and do it in a respectful manner. I think Greensboro's generally been pretty good about that. Do you see that being any kind of challenges from being a left or a right, or because most people are for good.
Yeah.
And I like to believe that. It doesn't matter what your party or affiliation is or anything. Do you see Greensboro having any issues with anything like that?
I do believe that people go into politics or especially local office because they want to do good in their community. Yeah. And for what we have to do right now, there is no political shade to it. There is a lot of opportunity coming on board. We need to put people to work. We need to help them increase their economic position wherever they are. We also need to ensure that we're growing in a way that really helps us to be attractive to this growth that's happening. And I think as long as you're doing that, the politics, it's not about politics. It's about what's going to be right for our community and taking those steps for that purpose. Yeah.
All right, well, that's cool. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. But,
no,
I'm good at that. So,
it's your name on the thing. You can do whatever you want to.
Let's talk about parks, greenways, and the things we have in Greensboro. We talked about the park across the street, and there's just many good parks. Fabulous parks, walking trails and things. What do you see? A lot of people. It's amazing how many people use. I was at Stamey's on Battleground, and I was leaving one day, and I was sitting there going, look at all the people walking or riding their bikes along that greenway on the back of, and it goes all the way to downtown, But just generally speaking, what's your thoughts on the parks and greenways and growth of any of that?
Yeah, Greensboro is definitely known for its green top, and that's something that you can see as you fly into the community, and people can feel it certainly. And we have a beautiful park system, and our ability to support that is really important. You've heard talk recently that some of our parks and recs are not open on weekends. To the extent that we can really ensure that our children have a chance to benefit from that, it's going to be important. The downtown Greenway, in multiple jobs in this community, I've worked on the downtown Greenway. It's just what an amazing boon that's going to be when it really reaches its full capacity, both for attracting local residents as well as for the economic catalyst that it can be. And I live in Lake Jeanette, and we have just beautiful park system that can connect over to Country Park and to the areas around Science Center. It's hard to beat, and it's hard to, well, I'm sure they put a price on it, but it's hard really to put a price on the value that brings to our community. Yeah.
Lake Jeanette's great.
Yeah.
One last question. I know a lot of cities. I was in a meeting yesterday, I think, and I was talking to somebody about Charlotte and Raleigh specifically, and talking about traffic. And but it made me think that in some ways I feel like Charlotte and Raleigh has in the past has grown so fast and still growing, by the way, and they're just almost trying to chase at the growth and keep up with it. Where I feel like here, I don't feel any of that here, and I feel like we're trying to stay ahead of growth because we're growing, and we're growing at a pace I feel like that we're staying in control of, and you don't feel like traffic is so bad. Like you do in these other cities, and I know we're not those numbers, but I feel like we're at least growing with the growth and not chasing it. How do you see Greensboro as far as that goes?
Yeah.
You don't see us being Charlotte or Raleigh, right?
Not today. And I think you're absolutely right. Your observation is spot on, is that we have 5 interstates that basically come through our community, but not only does it come through, it also connects you with the ports, and it connects you with other parts of the Southeast, and that has been very intentional. I will say that our leadership has thought about where we can really succeed and how we compete well. Our ability to have the infrastructure in place in advance that we have has been a key part of our ability to attract businesses at the airport, for example.
Yes.
I'm sure you remember Doug Gallion, who was an important part of our community. You have to give him credit. I mean, a lot of the road system that we see sort of delivering straight into parts of our community has been important. Senator Berger has been important part of that. So our ability to have infrastructure in place that is ahead of the growth means that we have been able to compete well, but it also means that as that growth happens, it won't be as taxing. I do think this is the time, however, for us to think even further beyond, like what the next 10 or 20 years bring, and does that look like a local transit system that goes from Rockingham County and connects us up to Charlotte, right? Like, there is a lot of opportunity for us to start looking ahead to keep that spirit of being ready and on the forefront.
Well, I lied. I do have one more question. So let's talk about, because this is very much industry specific. Let's talk about water and sewer. You talked about the next 5 or 10 years, and that triggered my mind there. We've got to expand water and sewer, or in my opinion, or the city's in trouble to some degree. I mean, we need to be able to. There's so much opportunity south and east, and other areas, but specifically south and east, headed toward Toyota, and then in lots of places north of even Lake Jeanette and along the 150 corridor or wherever. But what are your thoughts on expanding water and sewer, and is there capacity?
Yeah, so something that's really smart that I'm sure you're aware of right now, we have a regional task force that's thinking about how we can grow together in expanding both water and sewer. That's been a #1 item for the chamber as it's gone to the state in recent years, and it's for that very purpose. It was a fact that our water and sewer is already expanded to the airport. That has been a key part, again, of us being competitive with bringing businesses online, and we should continue in that spirit. So I always think that you can get anywhere you want to get to with a true plan and execution, and that's a key part of what we need to continue to do, and that's what this moment calls for. So for the next seat at council, their ability to stay focused, to articulate what the priorities are, and to be transparent in the next steps will make them successful.
Right. All right, guys. Well, Denise, thank you for joining us. Denise Roth, City Council at Large. It's real important, regardless of what you do, get out and vote. And if you want to watch this podcast, obviously, or future or past podcasts, you can go to triadnewhomeguide.com, and or you can find us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks for joining us.